Welcome everybody to another video on my channel. Today I decided to record a video on Nightreign while it was still fresh, and I'm going to be going over all the 6 starting classes that you can start with in Nightreign, and I'm going to be showing off their ultimate arts and their character skills. Alright, first off we have Wilder, which is a very easy class to get into. He's got the Claws Trot character skill, which is just a grappling hook that you can use to either pull enemies in towards him, or you can use it to kind of Spider-Man around the environment. And then his ultimate art is Onslaught Stake, which is just a big explosion that you can do that does a ridiculous amount of torpor damage and can interrupt pretty much every enemy that I've used it on. I don't think there's anything that attack. I always find the strength weapons benefit Wilder pretty well. It just flows into his character. That's why I was pretty excited when I got the Troll Knight turret sword for this run. I was still pretty new to Nightreign at this point. I pre-ordered it, downloaded it, and then as soon as it came out, started recording this video, trying to get it out while it's still fresh. So far the game is very fast-paced. Elden Ring was very slow-paced, and this is very fast-paced. You're moving all the time, trying to stay in the ring and go to points of interest throughout the map, which is why character movement is way faster than what you're used to in normal Elden Ring. As well as I wouldn't recommend playing this game solo. I think this game is best with friends, and if you're not with friends, you should probably be playing with randoms. I think even playing with randoms that you can't talk to is better than playing solo. A lot of the scaling and the general gameplay is very teamwork focused. Here you can see I'm using the ultimate art for the first time, and I think this damage scales directly off either your level or your weapon damage. Obviously the higher level your weapon damage is going to do as you progress throughout the run. This is like a roguelike game. But I like Wilder's ultimate quite a bit. Like I said, you can really use it to change the flow of combat, and if you're in a tight pinch, I don't die while using your ultimate ability, so it's a nice getaway card, or it'll save you if you're in a tight spot. Here you can see, even against the biggest enemies in the game, even if they're about to hit you, whereas in Elden Ring you normally would have been interrupted, your ultimate will pretty much always land unless they run away from you. I think, at least with this one, it'll always interrupt them. Alright, so now we have Guardian, which is more of a defensive character in this game. He's got a whirlwind and a tornado attack that he can do for his character skill, and then his art is him just kind of flying in the air. Here I got an insane amount of damage in this boss. I've kind of had mixed results. I've had to hit really hard like that, and then I have different times where he seems to not do very much damage at all. So I'm not sure if it's easier to hit some weak points or if I got a headshot here, but the damage seems very iffy. Also, I believe using his ultimate creates a bit of a defensive area around where you land for your teammates and career, which is always nice. Like I said, this is a lot more of a, I wouldn't say support character, but you want to be using your shield a lot to block, and probably using more of a counter-attack build. This character also comes with a passive ability to boost your shields. So blocking with this character will be better than any of the other ones, which is why a more defensive playstyle is what you're going to be going towards them. Of course, any of the characters you can do really whatever you want, but there's no reason not to. There's no reason to pick defensive character. Defensive skills. I will say with the really limited experience that I have with this character, his whirlwind ability always feels very underwhelming whenever I use it. I think his ultimate's pretty nice, and I really enjoy when other people play Guardian using his ultimate. Like I said, I think he's borderline a support character. but there was one pass or skill that's always felt kind of underwhelming. I'm not sure if I was using it wrong, or if the damage is supposed to be that low, but I've never gotten great results from using it. Alright, so now we have Iron Eye, who comes with the Eagle Eye passive ability, which I think just makes it boost your item discovery for a bit. I'm not really too sure what it does. I haven't played this character that much. One of my favorite things about him though is that he's more of a range character as opposed to the other two. And he comes with a marking ability that will boost the whole team's damage against whatever enemy you hit it with. And I think this ability here is great with his ultimate, which is just a big single shot from the bow that does a lot of damage, and just like Wilder's ultimate will interrupt pretty much any attack that's going on. It also completely ignores the armor of whatever it hits. So here we have Raider, which is a bit of a heavier class. Comes with the Fighter's Resolve passive, which just will directly boost your skill, depending on how much damage you've taken recently. So his skill is Retaliate, which he just puts his weapon away and does kind of like a power strike against whatever you're fighting. And that, like the other couple ultimates that I talked about, will interrupt most attacks. I've actually got some pretty good damage out of it. This skill. His ultimate is also probably one of my favorites to use in the whole game. It does a massive AoE and rises up this giant tombstone from the ground. So it's also super useful if you're reviving teammates. You can use this ultimate underneath them and it'll raise them up with you, and you can get an easy revive on them most of the time. I've also seen people use it, you have like an Iron Eye on the top of your totem. You just kind of stand up there as long as he stays there and pick off enemies from up there. And most enemies can't really damage you. It's high enough up off the ground. I'm also a huge fan of the weapon that you start with while playing Raider. I think it's got a super floaty moveset while still hitting hard and doing good enough damage to not feel like you need to replace it right away. Whereas with some of the characters, I feel like I want to find a new weapon as soon as possible. But Raiders, I usually try to level up the starting weapon and take it as far as I can unless I find something really good later on. So Recluse is the only real mage character or class in the whole game. I know you can still use spells with a lot of the other characters, but you'll find a lot more while playing as her. I think she's one of those ones that starts, I think she's the only one that starts with a glintstone, sorcery, and a staff and all that. Her skill's really fun to use once I figured out how to use it. You can make your kind of custom spells depending on what you pull from different enemies that you encounter last day from your teammates. And then once you get 3 different charges on it, you can use them, and depending on the different types that you collected, it'll do a different spell every time. I also personally think that her ultimate is one of the stronger ones in the game, because if you mark an enemy with it, which just requires them to be close to you when you use it, any magic attack that you hit them with will replenish your health as well as your focus points. So you can kind of, as long as you don't understand them, cast as much as you want while an enemy has this on them. I will say her damage feels pretty weak when you're first starting her run. And I gotta really be careful not to get one shot out of the enemies, especially if they're going up against a boss early on. But towards the end of the game, especially like day 2 and 3, I got some really crazy damage while playing with her. And it's like pretty much any mage build in Elden or Dark Souls in general. You can get some pretty good numbers off if you're using a dedicated mage build. So lastly we have, I think his name is pronounced Executor. He's definitely a dex focused character. Last one out of all the starting classes. I'm going to be making a separate video about the other two. Probably tomorrow, if I get time to do it. So his passive is just that you recover from status elements faster, which is always a plus. It's not exactly game-changing. His Curse Sword skill is definitely game-changing. You can deflect enemy attacks with it, and it will kind of build up a charge depending on how many attacks you've deflected in sort of a small gap of time. Also, his weapon by default does bleed, and it's the only one out of the starting classes that does that, so obviously it's good because of that, especially with how bad some of the scaling can get if you're not properly leveled. This ultimate, I think, is one of the most fun in the game, at least for me. You transform into a Crucible Beast, and you could... I'm not sure if it boosts your defense, but it definitely boosts your health bar. And I've noticed that you can tank through and hyper armor through pretty much anything that's hitting you. You can still die in this form, but it'll heal you, even if you're almost dead when you activate it. It'll heal you full while you're in the form. And you can do a lot of damage, and it's also a good way to revive your teammates because you can hit them and revive them and do quite a bit of damage while kind of ignoring whatever's going on. Alright, well, thank you for watching, everybody, especially if you made it this far. Of course, I always appreciate that. I just wanted to get this out real quick while Nightreign is still fresh. I'll have a more in-depth video, probably about the whole gameplay loop of Nightreign later on, if you guys want that.